Are we ready to leave our boats and nets behind in order to follow Jesus? There's something about discipleship. That Jesus, when he calls one to be his disciple, he does not call that person from a point of perfection, in a state of perfection. He calls such a one from an ordinary life, from an ordinary state, so to say. There's nothing extraordinary about one who is called to be a disciple of Jesus or to be a servant of Christ. There's nothing really very special. And no one can even claim to say, I am what I am because there's something special about me. We are all just the same thing before God. And we are called, of course, from different walks of life, but to serve the same purpose. Jesus calls us from our ordinary life in order to prepare us for something extraordinary. And what is that something extraordinary? It is the mission of saving humanity, the mission of availability to humanity, to people that are suffering in different places and in different ways. Jesus wants to make us part of that mission, and that mission is not an ordinary one. It is not business as usual. It is a special one, and we have to be prepared for it. We are all called from ordinary life. When I was growing up, I was very young and very innocent. I never thought priests and sisters came from ordinary families. I thought they came from heaven, or God just created them as priests already and as sisters. And for me, that image was very clear. And if I greeted a sister, I would not wash my hand for 2 days. And if it is the bishop that I greeted, or the bishop touched my head, I will not wash my head in case I wash away the blessings. Because if a bishop came, bishops don't always come to parishes. So maybe they would come to your parish once in a year. So if a bishop comes to your parish, it was like God has come to the parish. It's like all this time you've not had God. Now God has come. It was a special moment, and you just wanted the bishop either to touch you or to greet you, so that you don't wash yourself for a number of days. I never thought priests and sisters came from ordinary families. I never thought sisters and priests had to grow up like everybody else, like that, to go to school like everybody else, like they had to come from the compound like everybody else. That never occurred to me. Of course, that is not to say that we as priests and sisters are not set apart or are not consecrated in a special way by God in order to be sent for a special mission. But that is just to say that as people that have responded to this vocation, we are called from ordinary life. We all have a history. We all grew up in our own ordinary families. Some of us come from broken families. Some of us come from broken compounds. If we have to compare ourselves to the people that we heard about in today's readings, we are going to actually see ourselves in their shoes, or put ourselves in their shoes. Look at Isaiah. Look at Peter and the other disciples. Look at St. Paul. All these are great people, great prophets, great preachers that came from very ordinary lives. But they responded to this invitation, and Jesus, God, started molding them according to how he felt, how he wanted them to be, in order for them to be effective as he sends them out. In fact, they all, first of all, express unworthiness. Isaiah doesn't think he's ready to be a prophet. He says, I'm a man of unclean lips. I dine and wine with people that are unclean. How am I going to be effective in this mission? But God is not looking for a perfect Isaiah. God is not looking for an Isaiah who is already formed to be an instrument in the vineyard. God is looking for somebody who can come as they are, but present them as an instrument that is available for a special mission. And God says, Isaiah, it doesn't matter what you think you are, what you have gone through, what you have done, and what you haven't done. I am going to send you on a mission. And when Isaiah understands what God is inviting him to, what does he say? Here I am, Lord, send me. Send me as I am, because I have been called as I am. With all my flaws, with all my weaknesses, with all the cracks that I carry in my life, I'm going to respond to this invitation. When we respond in that manner, now it becomes God's work, God's duty to begin to shape us, to begin to make us the kind of instruments that would be effective as we are sent out there. Similarly, St. Paul, in fact, St. Paul is even worse, because he is coming from a monster, if you like. He was a monster to the Christian community. And because of that history, he doesn't even think that he should be part of the group of the apostles. He should not be anywhere near that group. He should not be anywhere near that mission, because he was a persecutor of the Christians. He says, I'm the least of all the disciples. I'm not even worthy to be anywhere near them. I'm the least of them all, because I persecuted the Christian community. But again, Jesus is not looking for a perfect St. Paul. He's not looking for a perfect person to send out there as an instrument of grace. All he's looking for is a Paul that is going to stand before him and say, yes, with everything that I've done in my life, I am ready to be made an instrument of grace. And this is what happens to Paul. He becomes one, if not the only longest traveled missionary. He establishes churches everywhere he goes. He writes all the letters that we read about, even those that we never read about, because they are not part of the New Testament canon. So he became a great apostle, from that monster to that great apostle. Look at Peter in the gospel and the other disciples. At the instruction of Jesus, they have a huge catch, and Peter realizes this is a special moment. But am I ready to be a friend of this person? I am not. So he goes and kneels, he falls before Jesus, maybe prostrates even before Jesus, and says, Lord, depart from me, for I am a sinful person, for I am a sinner. Peter being a sinner is not important with Christ. What is important is that Peter is here. He's here, and he at least even admits that he's a sinner. But that should not be like a blockage. Should not be a pillar between him being a great apostle and what he is now. What is important is that he is available. He puts himself before Jesus, expressing his unworthiness, but Jesus says, from now on, you'll stop catching this fish. You'll be catching men. You become an apostle. So his weakness is not a pillar between the mission and himself. His weakness becomes a point of departure for his being a great apostle. So there is something similar in all these persons that we have read about in today's gospel. And each one of us can find himself or herself in any of these, if not in all of them. We are all called from ordinary life. We are all called from the nets and the boats. We are all called from points of weaknesses. We are all called from brokenness of some kind. But if we are ready to be sent out there as instruments of grace, all the brokenness that we carry on our shoulders is not important, because it becomes now the work of God to begin to shape us and reshape us, to cleanse us, to make us ready for the mission, because the mission is great out there. Are we ready to be part of this great mission of saving the Lord, saving humanity? Or are we still holding ourselves back because of one thing or another, because of what we have done, because of our weakness, because of our sin? Are we still holding ourselves behind? Let us pray for ourselves today, that we may always answer yes to the vocation, to the call that God extends to us of being part of this mission. Whether married, whether a priest, whether a sister, or just an ordinary person, single person, whatever we are, it doesn't matter. God is still calling each one of us in that state of life to take to take a part in this mission. We are all partners in this whole scope of evangelization. But the question is, are we all ready to be schooled by Jesus like the disciples, to be shaped, to be formed into what the kind of instruments that would be effective out there in the vineyard? Or are we still holding ourselves back? They say that God does not call the perfect, but he perfects those that he calls. That is why it is important for us to go through formation. The disciples themselves went through formation before they were sent out. We all have to go through formation of some kind in order to be given the tools that we need for us to be effective out there. Are we available for this mission, or we are still trying to think about it twice, or we are still holding ourselves back because of what we did and because of what we didn't do? Amen.